Absolutely blown away. First night result. We've got an absolute peach of a fish. My biggest fish from this lake so far. Back it goes. Tell your mates, I'm waiting for them. What if I told you that the lake you see behind me here contains a £50 common? Not only that, there's another 4 40s and at least 25 30-pounders to back it up. Now that £50 common would be an absolute dream to catch. It would be a PB common for me in the UK, but any of the fish in here would be a worthy capture because they're all absolutely stunning. I've got 4 nights ahead of me, and we are of course at the Comely Lakes complex on the Isle of Wight, close to where I live, and I'm on the lower lake, somewhere I haven't been for a year and a half, but you might have seen on the Prologic channel some of the fish that I caught from here have been absolutely beautiful, and the average size has been well over £30, so it's a really exciting session, this one. I'll take you through the tactics and the rigs and the bait and the spots and everything like that, like I normally try and do on these videos. And hopefully, you know, you can put some of those things into your own fishing and help you catch a few more carp as well. I've got my mate Stu coming down tomorrow to join me, but for tonight, my first night on the lake, I've got the lake to myself, so really excited about that. I'm just gonna chill out, crack open a beer, have some nice food, and hopefully we're gonna have a fish to show you by the morning. Well, I'm in the lake, which can only mean one thing at Comely, because you have to do all shots in the water. We've had a bit of a result. It's been raining all night, and then it just stopped this morning, just getting light, and my left-hand rod has done a massive drop back down to the floor, and I had to investigate it. You know, you don't get that just as a liner, do you? That's a fish, definitely, and because I'm fishing up to margins as well, there's a good chance that fish had just swam out into open water. And anyway, we've got an absolute peach of a fish. There we go, 37.5 pound of Comely Lakes scaly mirror. My biggest fish from this lake so far, over my 3 sessions that I've done over a couple of years. Absolutely blown away. First night result, and I've still got 3 nights to go. So yeah, couldn't be happier. What a fish. I can see my lenses steaming up because it's quite damp in there. We've had a lot of rain, like I said, in the night, so I won't keep him out any longer, but I hope this is the first of many to come. Get in there. What a start at Comely. Right, so a bit of a weird occurrence. I just went to wind in my rods because I had to move my van for my mate Stu arriving. He wanted to back up to his swim so he can get his stuff out. So I wound in so I can move my van, and the middle rod, the bobbin was a little bit higher than where I'd left it, and the line was out the clip on the rod as well. Now I had a couple of bleeps in the night, but literally 2 beeps, turned the head torch on, the bobbin was where I'd left it, so I thought, that's fine, it's just a liner. But I'd had a tape because when I wound up into it,
the line was going tight across to a weed bed or something and properly locked up. And I walked around the lake just trying to get a different angle on it. I don't think the fish was there. I couldn't feel any kicking or anything. And then it just, you know, it just came back, and there was nothing there. But it was away from the spot where I'd hooked it from. So I definitely had a take, but annoyingly lost it in the weed. So bit of a gutter, but I'm redoing the rods now. So I just thought I'd show you the rigs that I'm using on this session. I've had 2 takes so far, so it's obviously working. One of them you'll have seen loads of times before on my videos. It's just the Amnesia D rig there. I've got half an amino ester white pop-up on top of an amino ester bottom bait, and basically all it is a knotless knot, and then the tag end you put hook ring swivel on and you put it back through and blob it to make a D, a little blob of putty in the middle, and that's all it is. And that just sits on the bottom there like that, ready for a fish to pick it up, and then the hook will drop down, and that little bit of putty just helps the hook get in the bottom of the fish's mouth. Been using that for a good couple of years now, and my hook to land ratio has been really good on it. And you know, the hook holds are really good. When you actually take the hook out, you know, you tend to inspect where the hook's gone, and it's normally a good inch back in the fish's mouth. So I'm really confident in that rig. And then the other rig that I'm using is the old faithful Withy Pool rig, Steve Renyard's invention there. Another rig that I've used for many years. Had my UK PB on this of 52 pounds 6, so I'm really confident in it. And I'm just mixing it up really at the moment, seeing what the fish want, seeing whether pop-ups are going to work. And actually that 37 pounder that you saw was caught on this rig, so pop-ups are working. But I also had a take on the D rig as well, so I don't think it really matters. It's more about the spot that you fish and the bait that you're using. So I'll get these rods out now and I'll talk you through the bait. Right, so bait-wise on this session, I've decided to keep it really simple. When I've been here before, I've tried all sorts of different mixes, you know, and using Vitalin to make little balls to fire out little parcels of bait. And I remember last time I was here, kind of went back to basics and just fished hemp and corn and boilies, and I caught 4 30-pounders on that session. So it just shows you that sometimes overcomplicating it can work against you. So what I've done on this session is I've purchased some hemp from the fishery, because they sell it here now, and some of the fishery pellets as well. And then I've brought my own boilies with me. I've got the amino ester from Pure Bait Concepts, and I've got some sweet corn, and that is all I'm using. And I'm literally walking around with my couple of buckets of different baits, and I'm getting in the reeds on the far side where I can get a good view of the spots on those far margins. And I'm just putting out a couple of handfuls of each of those baits on each spot, so nothing crazy. But the whole idea is that everyone on this lake is using bait boats, so that when they drive it out, they're dropping a parcel and it goes the size of, say, a dinner plate as it drops to the bottom in about 5 foot of water. So what I'm doing is I'm spreading it kind of over a 6 to 8 foot line along each spot, so that the fish feel a bit more confident kind of moving around. It's not such a concentrated kind of pressure zone, if you like. The fish can kind of pick out the edges and then hopefully find the hook bait in amongst it. So I've made my little spread there by getting out in the waders, walking through the reeds there, and chucking the bait out. And then I'm sending the boat out with just a few bits of crumb and a few whole boilies and a few pellets, just so I know there's something around the rig if I've got my spot slightly wrong when I drive it out there. But what I've actually done as well is I've put little white markers on the reeds over there. So I've got a bit of white plastic carrier bag, cut it into a strip and tied it around the reed stems by the spots that I'm fishing. So I know that I can see those clearly and I can really accurately drive the boat out to those spots. Because this side of the lake is quite hard to see any differentiation in the reeds. When you look at it, it just looks like a line of reeds. So you can't tell exactly where you need to be fishing. So if you put a marker out on your spots, on this lake in particular, where you're fishing the margins on the far side, you can really make sure you keep your baiting accurately and fishing on the same spots each time. So hopefully you can build up those zones. The fish get used to coming in and finding the bait there. And then I'm resting the swim a little bit in the daytime, so if the fish want to come in for a free feed, they can do, and I'm getting the rods out in the evening. When I got here, I had a bit of a walk around, and the reeds have grown up a lot since last time I was here. Before you could kind of walk around and there was a couple of trees you could climb to look down into the lake, but the trees have all gone now and the reeds have really grown up, so it's quite hard to see down into those margins to kind of see what the spots are like and see how clear they are. But there are a few gaps in the reeds where people have obviously been going in and out, and with the waders on you can get in, and with your polarised glasses you can kind of look down into the water and see that those spots are clear. So you know they've been cleared by the fish feeding and people putting bait there. So it made sense for me to kind of start on those spots, and I've now had bites off 2 of them, so I've just got my 3rd rod, which I need to kind of work out whether that spot's going to produce or not. I might give it another night, and if it doesn't produce then I'll move it somewhere else, because there's plenty of options of moving the rods around, and if a spot's not producing there's no point having a rod that's not really fishing properly. So that's my kind of tactics and thought processes on that. I'm going to talk you through the spots tomorrow, but for now my mate Stu's here, so we're going to have a bit of food and a couple of beers, settle down for the evening. He's had a long drive today and he's only just kind of got his rods out, so he's a bit kind of knackered and that, so I feel like I should spend a bit of time with him rather than just talking to the camera all the time. So we're going to have a bit of a chilled out evening. Hopefully a few more fish will come along tonight. I really want Stu to get one because he's driven a long way, and last time he came he didn't manage to catch a fish, so he really deserves one on this session. So fingers crossed for Stu, and hopefully I'll have a couple more to show for my efforts as well. Right, it's Wednesday now guys, so I've done 2 nights. I started on Monday, and I've only got that 1 fish to show for my efforts, and the one that I lost in the weed. My mate Stu turned up yesterday morning, Tuesday, and he managed an absolutely stunning 33 pounder last night, well, early morning this morning. So I did pictures of him for that, but that's the only fish we've had between us. So it's been quite hard going. We've seen quite a lot of activity today, fizzing and shows, but not really in the areas that I'm fishing. So I've had a bit of a rethink, and I'm going to move my spots about a bit tonight. I've just been round now and put some bait on the areas that I'm going to fish, and I'm just putting fresh baits on my rods, and I'm going to get them all out for the night. It's coming up to 6 o'clock now, so you know I'm just getting everything ready before it gets dark in a couple of hours. Fresh bait on the spots, new rigs, new bait, and everything kind of reset, so that hopefully any fish that are in my area are going to come in and find those little traps and get caught. It's all we can do at the moment. I think perhaps because we're in September they might be on the naturals a little bit. They've definitely been fizzing up and showing, but they're just not picking up baits very well. So we've just got to kind of persevere with it. There's not a lot else we can do at the moment. But I've had bites off 2 spots, and I'm going to fish a new spot on one of my rods that I haven't had a bite on tonight. So give myself a bit of a new lease of life fishing a new spot and see what happens. So just got my pink pop-up on my Withy Pool rig there. That's what I've caught on so far, so I'm going to stick with that on 1 rod at least. And hopefully tonight we'll have another couple of fish to show you. Sometimes I've found on this lake, I've fished it 3 times now, and I quite often get a fish in the first 24 hours and then it'll go quiet and I start doubting myself. But then I'll catch again on the 3rd night, so it might be that the fish get pressured when you catch them early and they sort of go into hiding, and then they hopefully get back on the feed after a little rest. So maybe tonight will be the night, guys. We'll have to wait and see. Well, sometimes when you're carp fishing, it seems like whatever you do, it just doesn't go your way. And on this session, the last sort of 36 hours has been a bit like that. The wind changed and went down the other end, and Stu was seeing loads of fish in front of him, and my end seemed absolutely dead. But this morning, as you can see, the wind has started trickling down here. I started seeing a few signs of fish, and about 10 minutes ago, if you can see here, one of my rods has gone, and we've got a fish to show you. It's another 30-pounder, absolutely stunning linear. So I'm blown away. It was just down to the conditions, nothing to do with my tactics or anything like that. And I've managed another one, so I'll get this fish out and show you, and get the rods back out, and hopefully in the last 24 hours we've got time for another couple. Right guys, as with all the fish here at Coombly Lakes, we've got to do pictures and video in the water, so apologies if this fish gets away before I get a chance to show it properly, but I've got some photos so I can always show you them. But so far it's been fairly well behaved, so hopefully it'll let me give you a quick look. Wow, and there we go. What an absolute stunner. There we go. Beautiful fish. 32 pound, 8 ounces. Caught on that end margin spot again, so both my fish have come from there now, but on different rigs. This was on the little D rig with a half snowman like I showed you. So it doesn't seem to matter about the rig, it's more about the spot. I think that's something I always say in fishing really, it's more about where you put it than what you're using. But yeah, really happy with that, beautiful linear. Another 30-pounder to the tally. And hopefully there's time for a couple more before we have to go tomorrow morning. Right, back it goes. Tell your mates, I'm waiting for them. Right, that's another day done. It's been absolutely scorching hot today, so I've just been kind of resting in the bivvy really, trying to shade from it. And apologies, I've not had loads of sort of filming to do, but there's not been a lot to tell you. Nothing's happened since that fish this morning. But I have just redone my rods, as you might see down here. And I've changed one of my spots, so in a minute I'll talk you through the spots so you kind of get an idea of where I'm fishing, and I'll try and sort of talk about why I'm fishing, where I'm fishing. And yeah, we're coming into the last night, so got about probably 15 hours left of the session. Hopefully tonight's the night for a big one. Really dearly would love to catch that 50-pound common, but one more fish would do me. I'll be happy. I've had 2 30s, so it's been a good session really in tricky conditions. Quite cold at night. Last night was kind of quite damp and quite sort of clear sky, and there was a lot of mist rising off the lake this morning, which is always a sign that the air temperature's right down, because the water's warmer than the air, so you get that sort of steam rising. And yeah, it's really hard conditions when it's like that, but I did manage that beautiful 32-pounder this morning, so yeah, it's not all doom and gloom. And I was speaking to the owner and he said that 2 fish on here is actually quite a good session. A lot of people blank, so I'm quite happy, but I'd love to get one more fish before I go, so I've done everything I can now. I'll talk you through the spots in a minute and then we'll see what the night brings. Right, so this is my swim here at Coombly, or Cumley, not sure exactly how you're supposed to say it, but I'm on the lower lake and this is a sort of far end swim, so you've got that whole reed line across there and that sort of bay and all along that margin there as well. So what I've decided to do, my right hand rod is going off over to the point over here, because I figured that's a nice patrol route, fish coming from down this end, going to come along them reeds and come across my bait there. So I put one rod there, my other one is kind of over to the reeds in the corner here. and that was the rod that I actually lost the fish on, which got in the weed, unfortunately. And then my other rod is along the end margin about here. So I'm just dotting them around the margins, because on this lake, everyone fishes from this side of the lake, so it tends to push the fish over to that far side. And the fish do patrol up and down that far side. Last time I was here, I had the drone up, and you can see the fish just swimming up and down. The light levels haven't been quite the same on this session, so I've not really been able to see any fish cruising, but they've definitely been getting over there, and the fish that we have seen show have kind of been on the far side. So that's why I've chosen to fish the spots that I've chosen. And actually, you know, I've got them out with a boat just with a little bit of bait, but then I've been walking around and getting in through the reeds with the waders, and just putting a few handfuls of bait scattered around as well, because I think I said earlier, everyone fishes bait boats on here, and if you can get a bit of a spread of bait, it's a little bit different to what the fish are used to getting caught on, so they're a little bit less wary. And when the owner feeds it as well, he tends to scoop pellets in a bit of a spread, so trying to replicate that so it's sort of a bit safer. Well, they think it's safer, you know, a little bit more of a spread of bait. So yeah, that's the spots that I've chosen and why. And all we can do now is wait. It's nice to have the rods out. Time to relax. Coming into the last evening. Let's hope it happens.
So I've had a bit of a nightmare in the night. As you might see behind, I've got 2 rods up against the bivvy there. So the new spot that I decided on over to the far corner is actually produced a take, and I was playing the fish and then my right hand rod started beeping as well. So it's gone round the line and I think because the line wasn't in direct contact with the fish anymore, the hooks popped out. And I wound that rig in and then went to winding the other rod because it's been dragged off the spot, and the line was all tangled up and balled up in weeds, so I had to cut that off and basically start again. And in the middle of the night when it was really kind of misty and foggy, I couldn't really see to get the rods out, so I've not ended up putting those rods back out. So I am currently just fishing with 1 rod down there, as you can see. Really misty, foggy morning this morning, which I always find isn't that great for bites. But, you know, it was like this yesterday and I did have a fish about 10 o'clock. So there's always a chance of another fish. And actually the rod that's out is the one that's done both my fish that have landed. So I'm sort of hopeful that I might have another fish before I go. But I do need to start packing up now because I need to be off for 10. The next lot of guys come on after that, so yeah, bit disappointing, you know, to have lost 2 fish on this session, because you just don't know in here what you've hooked really. They're all big fish and all stunning fish as well, and there's a chance, you know, that could have been another 30 pounder or something. So yeah, it hurts a bit losing fish, but you know, it's still been a good session. I've had 2 30s, one of them being, you know, an upper 30 as well, so I'm happy with that. And there is a chance of that last rod going in the last couple of hours before I need to leave.